if you played the clarinet back when you were in school and you're looking to get back into it as an adult, or heck, maybe you even just took a week or two break off from the instrument and you're wanting to know how to sort of work your chops back into shape, then this video is for you. My name is Josh Gu, and after years of studying the clarinet with some of the best teachers from around the world, I am excited to be sharing my knowledge with you. So go to QuickStartClarinet.com or check the description on this video to see all of the wonderful resources I have to help you reach your clarinet dreams. And of course, subscribe to this channel for weekly clarinet and music tips and tricks. Hey, editing Josh here real quick. I actually have a really exciting and very timely update. Since I recorded this video, I saw that Michelle Anderson of Clarinet Mentors is actually doing some free trainings in the month of December 2021 that completely line up with the topic of this video, just really by complete coincidence. So check the link into the description and I'll have a link to that. It'll be up for the whole month of December and like the first week of January. So if you're interested in some awesome trainings from her that go much more deep into sort of getting started back into playing the clarinet, or if it's your first time starting the clarinet, then definitely check the link out in the description for that. And now back to the video. So whether it's been 30 years since you last played, 30 days, or even 3 days, the process to get back into it is pretty much the same. I'm going to start with some things that might be more necessary if it's been more towards that 30-year side of things, and then I'll talk about the stuff that's identical no matter how long of a break you've taken. So the first most important thing to do if you've taken a really long break is to just check your equipment. If it's been more than a year since you last played, or maybe even more than 6 months since you last played, checking your equipment to make sure that it's in good shape would be a good idea. The first things that will probably go bad the soonest are the reeds, of course. So make sure that you're playing on newer reeds than when you were in high school. Even if that was just 2 or 3 years ago, it's not a bad idea to just get a new fresh box of reeds. The old reeds might work, but new reeds will at least make it so you know that that's not the problem. Speaking of reeds, it's also probably a good idea to check out the size of reed that you're playing on. You can check out my video on how to know what size reed you should be playing on to get a more in-depth look at that. But chances are that the size that you were playing on years ago may not be the right size for you now. May not have been the right size for you then either. Reed strength is a little tricky to sort out. It wouldn't be a bad idea if you can to get a few different sizes of reeds to sort of test and get back into things. Another great thing to be looking at would be your mouthpiece. Now, you don't have to get a new mouthpiece by any means, but you want to make sure that your mouthpiece is in good shape. Sometimes in school, we're very hard on our equipment, so if you have any like nicks or dings in the tip of the mouthpiece, any really big scratches on any of the area where the reed goes, it may be worthwhile looking at a new mouthpiece. You can get nice new mouthpieces for around $100 to $200, so they aren't terribly expensive. They're more than a box of reeds, but they're not as much as a new whole clarinet. I recommend the Van Doren line of mouthpieces just for something easy to go to. You can order them on Amazon. If you're more serious, which you probably aren't if you're just getting back into it, I might recommend going into a music store and trying as many mouthpieces as you can. That's what I usually recommend for equipment, but if your mouthpiece looks visibly damaged, just getting one from Van Doren will be an easy, quick thing to know that it's a solid mouthpiece. And then you can refer to that reed size video also to make sure that the reed strength that you have matches whatever mouthpiece you end up with. Now, the next really important thing to look at is going to be the actual corks of the instrument. So the corks, of course, are the part that connect the parts of the instrument. So you want to make sure that your corks are in good shape. Those are another thing that will degrade pretty quickly just from it sitting around, and also if you're playing a lot. But the corks, you want to make sure that they're on there, that everything goes together. One quick little trick that you can do if your corks are completely dismantled, especially if it's just falling apart and leaving chunks of cork everywhere, you could just take the whole thing off and actually wrap it in dental floss or plumber's tape, not sticky tape, but the plumber's tape, the Teflon tape, and that can kind of work as a cork. You want to make sure that it's sealing nicely so that it's not just falling apart. There's a little bit of twisting and pulling that you have to do to get it to come apart, and that there's actually a good seal. Because if you're leaking air at the joints, then that's just going to make everything harder for you. If your corks are in good shape, that's great. Do make sure that you use cork grease as you're putting things back together too, especially if it's been a long time and your corks are probably super dry. You're going to want to put some cork grease so they go together more easily. The other thing that we want to be checking in terms of leaking, not just from the corks, but also from the actual instrument itself. Now, actual repair shops have better ways to check if it's leaking, but you can actually do a really quick test at home. So what you're going to do is take just one joint of the clarinet at a time. You're going to cover all of the holes. So this would be like you're playing a C on the left hand of the clarinet. So this is a good refresher for notes if you don't remember your notes from whenever you played last. So like a C, covering all the holes on the left joint, and then what you're going to do is seal up the bottom of it. It works if you sort of lick your hand and get a little wet so that there's a really good seal there. And what you're going to do is actually suck through the instrument. And if it's sealing well, you should get sort of a vacuum in there, and when you pull off a finger, it'll make that nice popping sound. So if you're not getting a good suction there and it's not sealing enough that it can pop, and you're confident that you're sealing enough here and sealing enough with all your fingers, if you're leaking a little bit, then the air will just come through, so that's not good. But if it's not getting a really good seal, then that's also a good sign that there's going to be some air leaking. So if you have just a little bit of if you can hear the air sucking, then that's definitely a big issue and there's something leaking a lot and you probably won't be able to play at all. But if you're not able to get a good seal that pops, then you're also leaking a little bit of air. That's going to make things harder. It might not make it so it just doesn't work at all, but it'll make it harder. You can do the same thing with the right joint. This would be like fingering a low E, covering all the holes and covering all of those pads. Same thing, seal it up. And you should get that nice, strong pop to it. So that's all the sort of more long-term break things, just to make sure that your equipment's working. It's also not a bad idea if you can just take it into a repair person, have them give it a sort of once-over, fix any pads that may need to be fixed. If it's sealing pretty well on your own, or if it's sealing very well on your own, then you're probably okay. If it's sealing kind of well, it might be worth to take it into a repair person. Even if it does pass the at-home seal test, there is still definitely stuff that a repair person can do to make it seal even better and work better. But if it passes the at-home test, then you'll be at least in good enough shape that it's not going to make it impossible to play well. So now that you have your equipment in shape and you're sure that that's all working well, the next thing to do is getting into the fundamentals, which is the important part. And this applies to everybody, no matter how long of a break you've taken. This is what I do. I actually don't play on the weekends, so I take a 2-day break pretty much every week. Sometimes it's a little bit longer than that, especially if I don't have a lot of performances to be preparing for. But this is what I do after I come back every time, and it's the same stuff that I would recommend you to do if you've taken a longer break as well. You may need to refamiliarize yourself with the notes, but I actually find that oftentimes the notes sort of come back just like riding a bike. You might need to refamiliarize yourself with reading music, and you might want to check a fingering chart to sort of see where things are, but I bet you probably remember how to play better than you may be expecting, which means you can jump right into the basics and the fundamentals. And the whole point here is to do the things that you need to do on the instrument in the most simple way possible. So the important things to be able to do on the instrument is have a good sound quality, move your fingers to all the notes that you need to, and then articulate and tongue and shape the notes for whatever articulation you need to. I call this the 3-step warm-up. If you're familiar with my stuff, you have heard me talk about the 3-step warm-up a lot because it's the most important thing you can do for your playing. So what we're going to start with is long tones, just focusing on sound quality. This can be something super simple, just 5 notes of a scale to start off with, but you're going to go really slow so that you can really get your best sound. was just C, D, E, F, G, going through the first 5 notes of the C major scale. Nice and long, listening to what it sounds like, and making adjustments. You may not sound very good right off the bat. You may not remember quite how to form your face and make that embouchure, or how to support with enough air. So it'll take some sort of experimenting and adjusting to find the sound that you want, or at least a sound that works. If you're on new reeds and your clarinet's in good shape, you probably won't need to do that much work to get at least a decent sound. But with long tones, you can do them sort of infinitely to always be improving your sound. I've been playing for 15 years now, 16 years now, and I still do long tones every single time I practice, even when I'm practicing every day of the week. Long tones are the key to getting the sound that you want, so just listen and experiment. The next thing to do would be to work on your technique a little bit. So this is just your normal scales. If you have an old scale book, that's fantastic. If you have a regular scale routine, just get into that. The thing that I'll say about the technique is really take your time. Don't be in a rush to play fast. Worry more about the quality. Be confident about where your fingers are going, that you're landing on the holes, covering everything nicely, and playing as rhythmically as precise as you can. So you could do just a 1 octave C major scale, a 1 octave F major scale, maybe something like this, nice and slow, with quality being at the forefront of your mind. And again, even for me, I wasn't super happy with the quality the first time, so I just did it again, made any adjustments that I needed to so that I could get perfectly even, relaxed fingers, really good control of all those notes with a good sound on all of them as well. And then the last sort of fundamental thing that you need on the clarinet is articulation. For this, I think just tonguing one note is a great way to get back into it, and you can really, again, listen to the quality. One other thing with articulation is I always recommend starting with a long tone so that you can get the sound going the way that you want, and then start moving your tongue, touching it to the reed, and making sure that the sound quality stays the same, like this. And if something isn't sounding the same, then it means that something's going wrong when you move your tongue. It may be that the tongue's hitting the reed too hard, but more likely actually is that you're tightening up with your embouchure, or you're backing off the air, or a combination of all three: the tongue too hard, the embouchure too tight, and the air too soft. So that's why I sort of sprinkle in the long tones and always start with the long tone, is to just get the best sound and then make sure that the tongue doesn't change the quality of the sound. It just briefly interrupts the vibrations of the reed. And I think that's a great exercise to start with just one note. You can do it on a few different notes, but don't even worry about changing notes. Just worry about good sound, good articulation. Just like the technique is all about good finger motion with a good sound, and the long tones are just good sound to get yourself started. Now that you're sort of getting the warm-ups going and getting the clarinet playing back in shape, the next thing to do that I would recommend is just work on some music. You probably have some music that you've played in the past, something that was familiar to you, whether it's an ancient band folder that has some pieces that you remember playing, or maybe it was a solo that you did, or maybe your first etude from a long time ago, or if you've taken a shorter break, it may be whatever etude or whatever you're working on. Play that. Play something that you're familiar with so that you can know how it sounds and sort of get back into the feel of playing music. The other thing that I would recommend after playing the thing that you're familiar with, that's something to sort of work on, is also do something new, but something really fun. I think it's really important as we get back into playing, whether it's a short break or a long break, that we have fun with it. We took a break for whatever reason. Maybe we were too busy, maybe we were sort of feeling burnt out if it was just a shorter break. But you want to get back into having fun. So sometimes for me, I sort of just do some improvising of something kind of jazzy with a blues scale. I might get out a new piece of music that I've never played before, but it's something that I've always wanted to play, whether that's a pop tune, a solo piece, whatever it may be. Just find something fun that you can really enjoy your time with the clarinet on. So that's my tips for if you've taken a break from playing and you're sort of getting back into it. I hope that this is helpful. Definitely leave a comment if you have any questions. I will also say if you've taken a longer break and you're sort of starting to get back into it as an adult, I highly recommend subscribing to my channel, and I also highly recommend my method book, The Next Generation Clarinet Method. It's a fantastic resource, has tons of these kinds of warm-up exercises and lots of different warm-up exercises, and it also has a big section of the book dedicated to just how to actually play the instrument. Yes, you may have played it a long time ago and thought you were pretty good, but who knows how much you remembered, who knows how good you actually were. Not saying that you weren't, maybe you were amazing, I don't know. But I think a lot of times we don't actually learn that much about how to play the clarinet in our regular band program, and we may not realize how great the clarinet playing can be. So that's what sort of the first third of the book is about, is learning how to actually play properly, and then there's all kinds of warm-ups and all kinds of exercises and music to dive into to apply that really great clarinet playing. So if you're interested in that, go to quickstartclarinet.com/nextgenbook. I'll put a link in the description as well, and you can check that out. But good luck getting back to playing the clarinet. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I will gladly help you out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I wish you the best of luck in your clarinet journey.